Facilities Workshop to order, this being November the 4th at 2024. It is approximately 6 p.m. As this being a workshop, no decisions or votes can be made. This is for discussion purposes only. And at this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Director Hicks.
All right. Thank you, board members and those joining us via the phone too. Hopefully you can hear everything. We wanted to start with an update from Melissa on some informal, unofficial numbers, but things are looking better. As you remember, we projected being in the red 23-24, and we're starting to get to the point where we're wrapping up actuals from last year. So we wanted to give an update on that to let you know what we're looking at financially and in the fund balance, potentially in the fund balance, adding back to it before we have the discussion with CTE. So that's the first item on the agenda. I'll turn it over to Melissa.
So everybody should have a copy of your budget book. I know you probably don't have it with you tonight, but I think Jennifer gave these to you a little bit ago. So if you go back and look at that for the general purpose school fund, the estimated amount for 23-24 at the time we did this document, we actually estimated putting around $393,000 back into the budget rather than actually taking from fund balance. With our not actual numbers yet, but our kind of estimated actuals, it looks like we're going to be closer to putting back in around $1,800,000 instead of $300,000. So then when you look at 24-25, even if we were to spend every single penny that we had budgeted there, instead of ending this current year with $4.8 million, would be closer to $6.2 million. But there again, we don't feel like we'll end 24-25 with those numbers either, because you know the estimated 4.6 that we're estimating taking from fund balance, we don't feel like it'll be nowhere near that amount. So just wanted to share that good news with you as far as adding back to general purpose school fund. And I know when these guys start talking about the CTE projects and whatnot, we're actually talking about Education Capital Projects Fund, which is Fund 177. And Shannon has a pretty good list of projects that we need to get completed out of that fund also, and those things keep changing. So that fund is kind of iffy, you know, trying to figure out what that projected fund balance is. But we wanted to share with you that GP, the General Purpose School Fund, was looking pretty good for ending 23-24. So if we possibly have to shift any pennies toward next year's budget to Fund 177, then that could be a possibility.
Kathy, can you hear? Kathy? Hello?
I hear most of it, but I can't hear all of it.
Okay. Well, we got more money.
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay.
Is she listening on this or listening on the phone?
Yes. Yeah, just listen to Jeff's video.
Okay, all right.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
So that's pretty much what I had to share with you. So.
It is. With that, any questions, concerns, more details that you need? Again, that's unofficial, so until we get the official closed books for 23-24, that's our best estimate, but it's good news. Anytime we can put things back into the fund balance and then make use of them for items that we're going to discuss, like that we're going to discuss later this evening, I think it's a great thing. Just out of curiosity, if the 1.8 holds, what will we be looking at roughly in the GP fund balance?
We had at the end of 23-24, roughly 10.8.
Where we been higher than that?
We were up above 12, I think, when I first. That's when the county commission, budget committee reduced because we had a reduced enrollment coming out of 19. They reduced by 2 pennies, I think, 2019, my first budget season. Because we had such a high reserve and we had a reduced enrollment of about 200 kids, I think, that year, combined with that year and the year prior.
That's, this is good news.
So the other good news is we're only going to talk about the 0.8 tonight. A portion of the 0.8, so just keep that in mind as we transition to the next piece.
Good, because I want to talk about another 0.6.
So we've got some good news too. It's not quite as good as Melissa's news, but we finally were able to get these shop expansion projects out to bid again. We did that a little over a year ago for Clinch, and the economy being where it was, we didn't get any bids on that project. So packaged as one with all 3 expansions, we got a really good response. But to be really brief, they came in about $750,000 or $800,000 over what we had budgeted for these projects. And that includes $2 million of ARPA funding from the county commission, the $2 million that the board committed to match those funds, and then about $610,000 in innovative schools funds that we had set aside. So we had $4.6 million budgeted, and overall projects came back at $5,050,000.
That's for all 3.
All 3, yes, sir. So,
Can the board get a breakdown of the expenses on these facilities at that, what'd you say, 5.20 what?
yes,
You're going to, and the answer is yes, you will have the bid packet that we're going to approve on the 14th, and that has the breakdowns of the different bids that came in and what we're recommending.
so this was a complicated bid for contractors. We had the 3 projects being bid, as well as a switchgear change out at the Cherokee Volunteer for the CTE building. So they had 5 things that they needed to give an individual price for. And in addition to that, we asked them if one contractor is awarded all projects, would you give a discount? And you'll see the breakdown of the 3 contractors who submitted bids, what each of their prices were for those projects, as well as the discount, and that'll kind of outline why we're recommending one contractor. And that's the final price point. It's the best deal overall. But what we're asking, or what we would like to ask the board to consider, is not to necessarily take on that entire $800,000 overage. We were able to look a little closer at the innovative schools budget for Cherokee and Volunteer, and we feel like we could comfortably squeeze some more funding out of the equipment line items there. And we've moved $300,000 out of those lines to capital projects. And so we would like to ask the board to consider an additional, potentially $450,000 on top of the $2 million. And I say potential because in the bid package, there's about $350,000 worth of contingency funding. So there's a possibility that none of that money will get spent at all. Of course, there's also a possibility that every dollar will get spent, so more than likely somewhere in between. But best case scenario would be an ask of the board to commit an additional $150,000. Worst case, an additional $450,000, or excuse me, $100,000 to $450,000.
What's y'all's timeline?
Remind me,
We asked each contractor to guarantee that they could have it done by June 30th, so we could be ready to start school. Give ourselves a month leeway. If they're done by July 30th, we'll still be able to start school in that building. So we have ourselves, and the contractor has been back to the architect, had a discussion to make sure.
Who's
that
our architect?
Brian Hawkins, Thomas and Lee. And they've been back and they've reviewed and made sure that nothing got left out when they did it. They're good with the bid that they make, and they say that they can do it in that timeline.
so that would put us potentially breaking ground mid to late December. About right, and then hopefully substantial, if not total completion by the end of June.
Matt, when will we get these bids to come before the board?
We got them. They'll be in your board packet because they have to be presented to you all in detail as received, and then you guys either choose to recommend it. You can do several things, of course. You can decline it and send it back for whatever reason. You can approve it as recommended, or you could go with, or you could ask the staff to consider something else. So you'll have all those details in that breakdown from the bid process ran by the county.
Okay.
We had 3 contractors that bid for it, and as Brandon said, when the team first put out claims last year, there wasn't a single bid on it. So we packaged the 3. Patrick and Brandon and Seth worked with the architect to package those 3 to get somebody to bid on it. We did get some pretty, even with inflation and material costs, feel like we got a pretty good bid package from 3 reputable organizations.
Okay, well, we will be getting the bids and everything, so
Yeah.
you can, as board members, look into that.
It'll be in the packet, and that'll be out 10 days prior, so by tomorrow morning, would start the 10-day window anyway. So when you all get that, if there's any questions, you can email me. I'll relay them to the team or whatever you guys have as far as questions or necessary information on those.
Well, to be quite honest with you, I believe in what we're doing, but I'd like to see what else kind of capital projects that we need. I know there's some other things that we're needing system-wide, and a lot of little things need to be done. But now that should be in maintenance's budget. Is that correct, Shannon?
Yeah, well, all that comes out of,
Capital projects.
yeah.
So, yeah.
These funds, this is,
That's, yeah, it's
Totally
totally separate,
separate
except for
fund,
the
yeah.
500,000 will
Well,
come out of fund balance.
Yeah, the 450 would be so that they can proceed as received from the bids. And remember that there's a timeline on there. So the risk would run if the board decides to, let's say, take another month to evaluate that and add other projects for consideration outside of the capital projects line, for example, or other things, we risk that timeline going south and having to rebid.
No, I like the timeline. I'm not having a problem with any of this. I'm just trying to get the road clear for everything else that we need to do and what kind of monies we're looking at.
Yeah, I got
Because
you.
if we're going to expedite this, and it's not your guys' fault, it's not your guys' fault, and it's not our fault that we couldn't get any bids here in Cody. So now we're kind of behind the timeline that where we want to be, and we're having to expedite some things. I understand that totally, but we also got to consider the rest of the system and things that may or may not need to be addressed. I just want the board members to be as informed as we possibly can be.
There's some potential other good news coming from Shannon's side of that, number 3, but I hear you loud and clear. I mean, we've got a running list of things we need to try to tackle. And, we have also, just keep in mind, we've also, in a very aggressive manner over the last 3 years, really gone after prioritizing through the legislative process facilities and maintenance monies coming from the state, something we've never received directly.
Yeah.
So we are working that angle too quite a bit.
Okay. Well,
One final note, when you do receive the total bid package, when you're looking at the numbers in clinch, keep in mind that we're dedicating the $2 million from the county commission toward that project. Now, those are federal funds, and that we're required to pay federal wages for that project. So you'll see that for a project with less square footage, you've got similar, if not even in some cases higher price overall. And the timeline on ARPA funding, if we delay much past this next month, we'll be squeezed.
so just to recap, we're getting $2 million from the county and $2 million from the Board of Education.
The board voted to match those $2 million.
Yeah.
We have already budgeted $600,000 from the Innovative Schools funds, and we have.
1 minute, slow down.
Okay.
So we got 2 from the county, 2 from the fund balance of the Board of Education, and how much?
$600,000 Innovative Schools.
And can you give us a definition of innovative schools?
That's a grant that was released a little over 2 years ago at this point from the governor. It was $500 million statewide. Each of our high schools with more than 250 students received $1 million. Clinch, unfortunately, based on the way it's classified, only received $200,000. Each of our other middle schools received $500,000. So out of the $2 million, and I'm saying $2 million because we're talking about Cherokee and Volunteer, they each got $1 million allocation for CTE. We had already budgeted $305,000, I believe, just north of $300,000 at each site for this project. And that put us at a total of about 4.61 million that we had budgeted before we opened these bids. Now, since then, we've done a budget amendment, went ahead and got approval from the state. They've given us the okay to do this, to budget an additional $300,000 from the Cherokee volunteer funds. So that puts the total up to 4.9. So, are you with me so far? Okay.
Yeah.
900,000. It's coming out of Innovative Schools.
I didn't realize that much money came in from the state. I mean, $500,000 for each middle school.
So you have to keep in mind, though, that as part of that process, we hired some staff. We hired middle school career exploration teachers, and we haven't yet because we don't have the shops for them. We will be hiring a welding instructor, a Cherokee, a machine tool instructor, volunteer. Part of their salary is budgeted out of Innovative Schools funds. Well, at the end of next school year, that fund goes away, and the system will be taking that cost on. So as part of the justification for how we're going to sustain those positions, we had to show, we're going to be able to put enough students in those courses to generate enough funding with just funding formula.
Yeah.
So that's another reason that we need to, if we can, we need to have these things completed for an August start date, so that we can be generating funding from students in those courses.
I'm glad you said that, that's a good point. Okay, yeah, because the new funding formula, CTE students, the number of them helps our funding.
Right now, we're on the second year of hold harmless. They're flat funded CTE basically. From this point on, if they move from the hold harmless set amount, flat funded, then we will receive TISA bonuses based on which tier of program the students are in, tier 1, 2, or 3. So that's why we're doing comprehensive, consistent programs between Cherokee volunteer welding, the shop class, the machine tool, sorry. That's why we're making them equitable across each end of the county. Ultimately, that's why we really wanted to have those courses in a centralized facility, but that didn't work out. So this is our kind of plan B, but it's working out pretty well as getting enough students consistently through those programs starting to make grade.
There's a lot of excitement there.
Yeah.
There really is.
We've got waiting lists in a lot of the programs they're running right now, so we're needing to expand to keep up with demand, and we feel like the programs we're offering are going to put the students in a very good spot.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any architectural drawings of these facilities? Have you shared them before?
We shared some preliminary drawings. I don't know that we've shared any of the drawings for Cherokee Volunteer yet, but I know we shared the preliminaries for Clinch when back when I did originally. If Mr. Hickson's okay with it after the board packet is sent over tomorrow, we can easily forward you the total drawing package with project number and all.
I think I'd like to see it. I think it'd be helpful for the board to see it.
It's extensive. It's about 100 pages of drawings and 500.
Just the scales.
Yeah, 500 page.
Not the
Just a basic floor plan.
Elevation.
Elevations, yeah. Just the elevations. And they have there's another rendering of, with color and what it's going to look like and stuff.
We don't have copies of that.
I don't think we have that.
We can ask for it.
We do have that.
I mean, it'll be black and white, but if
Right.
you get the elevations, you'll be able to see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brick building.
Yeah. Basically, it's the same footprint as the building that we have now on the end where what used to be the paint booths.
Yeah.
That big roll-up door on the end. It's the same footprint as that building. It just extends out to that there's a little curved island that's right outside. It comes to about the middle of that island. Exactly the same as the rest of the buildings, with the exception of there are some high bay windows in it to help get a little more light in on the end of the building. They roll up door on one end and roll up door on both, one on the back side, and then roll up door on both sides.
Okay.
It's very,
It's basically,
and Clinch same way.
as you turn in, take volunteers, you turn into the gym, it's that area at the end of CTE. It'll come out to the roadway.
To the road that goes in.
You're going into the gym. And it'll look just like that. It'll
Same.
Just an extension.
Yeah.
And Clinch is same way.
But there's modifications going to be made inside the current building?
So what used to be the paint booth will become a classroom in both of those
Okay.
buildings that will tie into that new shop.
Now, did I hear you all say correctly that Cherokee got $1 million and was allocated $1 million for CTE, and volunteer was allocated for CTE $1 million, and each of the 4 middle schools got $500,000? Is that correct?
Correct.
200.
Place got 200,000. It was 4.2 million total.
That's over a 4-year period, right?
Right, yes. And with the positions, and we did a presentation back when the board agreed to commit $2 million, and I'd be happy to forward that to you, but with the positions that we hired, if we hired them in year 1, which we actually didn't hire in year 1 of grant funds, but the first year that we hired a position, we can pay 100% of the salary and benefits out of the innovative fund, and that's what we've done. but each subsequent year, we have to step that down by 25%. And we also have to show them a sustainability plan. We're gonna commit CTE generated funds to stay with CTE to pay for those additional FTEs.
Okay.
So the hope is by the end, that due to these gentlemen's work, it's gonna come to fruition that we shouldn't have much, if anything, financial impact as these programs grow. We receive additional funding through TISA because of the bonus amounts, and that ISM, that goal of those state funds was to kickstart and to strengthen people's LEA's CTE programs so that they could receive more funding and offer
Yeah.
more opportunities for the students.
I think it's working. I do. Okay, that's all I've got on that part.
Well, the last thing, if there's no questions for the CTE team, Shannon just wanted to give a little bit of update. We do have the architect here if you want.
Yeah, he's got drawings.
A lot of apologies.
We're moving on. Got 4 minutes.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I just have a question. May I ask a question?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so, it sounds great that schools are going to expand CTE. I think that's a very good thing too. But I do have a question. So, if you're saying like we get these funds and like the first year they're covered, 100%, then next year is going to be less that's covered, so the system is going to have to put in more money, and then eventually that funding is going to disappear, and the system is going to have to take the bill, basically. So how is it sustainable to keep these programs in the future? Like, where can they get the funding? That's going to make the budget bigger and bigger, and the base has
We believe it is, and it's part of the application process for the grant dollars to begin with, was to outline our sustainability plan. And that was to commit CTE generated funding with the TISA formula to stay within the CTE budget overall. And if we increase CTE enrollment via program expansion as a result of these projects, we're generating additional CTE funding, and that's how we're showing sustainability for those additional positions.
okay, so we're generating the CTE funding from the state?
Correct.
Understood, okay, thank you.
Doesn't have to do with the number of students enrolled.
It does, yeah.
As well as to help funding.
Yeah, and there's more funding for the higher tier programs, the higher demand career fields. So again, we're flat funded for the second year as the state rolls out TISA bonuses for CTE because of ISM and some other programs. But eventually, we will have to account for how many students are in each tier type of program, and we receive bonuses for that.
And that tier is based on multiple factors, but basically, high need, high wage jobs. And bring you more money.
More per
Yes,
student.
yes.
And if you think back to the board workshop when we discussed how many students were placed in workplace learning settings and how many students earned a credential and what tier that credential was, that stuff would play into how much overall funding CTE generates as well. As Mr. Hickson pointed out a couple of times, we've been flat funded for the past 2 years, so we fully anticipate our funding to be even better than what we're seeing currently. And in particular, we certainly expect to capture some new students to CTE in general. So the outlook is good in terms of generating additional funding.
So I guess the hope is that the program is going to generate enough funding through the students that we're not going to be
It should be.
out any money.
Yeah, it should be budget neutral.
Yeah.
It should be budget neutral, worst case scenario. And Seth just pointed out a good point too. We haven't really talked to the board a whole lot about this, but we picked up BioSTEM program in all 3 schools. That's adding to to our CTE numbers overall.
That's more fun.
And that wasn't even in the initial, that wasn't even expected.
And that was,
That's great.
that's been a budget neutral move to do that. We've done that with existing staff, so.
So as long as the results stay and continue to go up based on this, it's just gonna, the funding's gonna actually continue to go up as well.
Correct.
As long as we show, yeah.
Melissa asked some questions a few months back when we were discussing this, and you know, if for whatever reason, 2-3 years down the road, we saw declining enrollment within a particular program, we wouldn't let those numbers totally bottom out. We would intervene, whether it be just better recruiting for the programs. That'd be the first attempt. But if we needed to, we can shift away from the program and offer something that is more palatable to the students and something that fits the need.
Sounds great.
More and more, you've got kids coming up, that's what they're wanting though. I mean, they're wanting to get into that, and they know that they're gonna be able to just move forward from there. I mean, and they're great with that.
There's so many openings now, so many opportunities with a majority of the workforce retiring and all these job openings are happening. I think it's certainly a great opportunity for kids to get into the CTE programs and excel at a high-wage job.
Speaking from somebody that works in trades, there's no better way to spend money than to train these kids in a job that they can go and have a career, a
Right.
built career. And with everything that these guys are doing, kudos to them. I mean, it's great programs, and you can walk out and have a job. And that's
More kids know that, I mean, they're jumping on it. That's great. That's
Workforce development without a 4-year lag going to college, when they come into the workforce, you know, immediately they're starting to make money
Without
accumulate debt.
Without the college debt.
Right.
they're ready to roll.
And just to kind of put you at ease in terms of if we were to get behind the ball and funding being generated, program evaluation is ongoing and never ends. We look at the programs we're offering every year and compare them to labor market data. That's just part of our process. We have to justify what we're offering to the state. We have to justify it to ourselves and to the board. That's not something that we would get behind. So we're trying, I can assure you, we are trying to capture every student we can for a CTE program study. And we want to make it a program study that is meaningful and useful to them.
If you build it, they will come.
We like to build it, that's
Yes.
what we're asking.
Okay, any other questions before we move on to number 3 for capital projects? Kathy, you good? Elena, you good?
I'm good.
Elena?
Yes.
Are you good? We want to move on to item number 3 on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, capital projects.
I'm gonna keep mine really short tonight, I promise. We did talk about the switchgear replacement at the 2 high schools. We did replace the switchgear in the main building with the HVAC project that we did for the high schools. But in the CTE buildings, there is still the 1977 model switchgear. So we would like to do the switchgear replacement as they do this project. That's why we included it in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Both of those schools together, volunteer in Cherokee, totaled $234,000. The switchgear changeout, it was 130 at volunteer and 134 at Cherokee. Is that correct? Or am I backward?
I've got 132 at Cherokee and 130 volunteers.
Okay, so it's 232 instead of 234.
So $500 million.
Yeah. So Well, quarter.
You said it was 234,000 for the.
Total,
Oh, I thought
262.
232 total,
232 for the switchgear.
at both schools combined. So you're 132.
For the, put it in.
Yeah.
So we're getting 2 switchgears, just so.
We're changing out all the switch gear. There,
It's the last remaining switchgear in both high schools that wasn't upgraded from the.
correct. It's old ITE switch gear. We cannot get those breakers. If they go down, the only way that we can get breakers is to get a remanufactured breaker from Knoxville. And the last one I bought was around $6,000, so we want to really not replace those with the same thing again.
Am I missing something?
What?
Two,
It's,
two-
okay.
232.
I can clarify for you. So it's 130,000 total at volunteer and 132,000 total at charities.
That's the material, the switchgear and.
Labor, that's installed, that's
Okay.
done.
So no, it's like 260, sorry, 262,000 at total, $4 million total for
Okay.
for both.
Alright. We'll scratch all this down. That makes better sense.
So there you go, it is, 130, 132.
Yeah, if you split
Right.
the
If we
total
split it,
projects.
combined.
So
The good news behind that is, after some creative negotiations, we no longer have to change out the interior doors of Hawkins Elementary. That problem has been solved with some adjustment to the exterior windows in the project that we're working on now. So that door replacement project has went away. The door replacement project at Rogersville Middle School, after talking to Nashville for a couple of days, has went away. So we were not going to have that expense that I had listed as a project for those 2 door projects. So the only door project that we will have is Churchill Elementary School. So my idea is whatever money that we had budgeted for those door projects go to the switchgear. And that updates the 2 high school switchgear.
It's a good idea. No harm, no foul.
I saved it to Brandon's family.
So when the electrical engineer that came to look at this project, he was really concerned about hooking everything new into that old gear, whether it would come back on.
Well, it was twofold also. The old switchgear doesn't have a main. It has 6 mains. Okay, so every piece of switchgear in every lab, if you want to call them labs or shops, whichever one, has its own main. According to code, we can only have 6 mains in one building. This building attaches to that building, we can't feed power to it. So in order to do that, we have to swap the switchgear out anyway to have the capacity to run the other shop. So
And you can get this changed out in the timeline, these that we're talking.
yes, it's
Well,
switchgear is always a problem. We will pay a premium to have it expedited in, the switchgear, but it will be done in the same time.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons why we looked at, when we looked at the bids, we would like to keep the electrical contractor for those projects the same as the electrical contractor that's swapping out the switchgear, so that we don't have crossover between the 2. Keep one electrical contractor throughout. Because they'll be going on consecutively. I mean, they're side by side.
And we can discuss it further at the board meeting after you all receive the total bid packet, when you see our recommendation, there'll be a pretty clear reason and logic behind why we're recommending the low contractor for the total project.
Okay.
this evening, we felt as a team it would be beneficial for the board, at least those that could be here either virtually or in person, to have a little bit of information about the packet, because there's 3 bids in there. You'll see that it's over budget, so we wanted to answer that question. We also wanted to address the why, and then give some good news from facility standpoint as well as potentially our reserve funds.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Next.
That's all I'm talking about.
he has a long list, but that's the most impacted pieces.
But
Yeah.
you've seen the 5-year list, and you know, some of the projects we've had, we've pushed several times. Some of them have jumped from bottom to top. It's a fluid list, and I've not even taken the door projects off yet. They're still on there. But now it's gonna be replaced with switchgear.
Okay.
So,
You good? You guys good? All right. I would like to, we used to do this in the past. We would do some facility tours. We've got new school board members. And some board members that have been on the board for a while but have not had the opportunity to do these facility tours. I would like for us to try to do that at least one time. Go around, look at the schools inside and out, so we're more familiar with what maintenance is trying to maintain, so we can understand better when we're trying to allocate funds. So at some point, right after the first of the year, I'd like for us to try to all get together and do a facility tour. If I may ask that. Is there anybody got any comments, questions, or concerns? Kathy?
Well, you will have, if I go on a facility, you will have to push me.
I think I can do that.
Yeah, we'll trade off.
Yeah, we'll get a skateboard and set you on it and push you right along.
Wear your back brace.
He'll be out running us all by then, but
Oh, yeah.
we're just glad that you're doing better, you're feeling better, you're joining us in any form of fashion. It is appreciated.
I wish I could go to Nashville, but I'll be here. Anyway, I'll be there on the 14th, live and in person.
Great.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Great.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. Elena, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Well, we will, is that it for everybody? We-
Well, I'd just like to say thank everybody for the flowers. They were beautiful. I really enjoyed them. I can't go get a card, but I can thank you in person.
Okay.
I can't go, but okay, well, yeah, I appreciate everybody, and I'm glad I got to do this tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. We are adjourned.